Dr. Treffert, you and I have known each other for a long time, and we talked a lot about research and have collaborated on some projects, and you discussed a Treffert Center somewhere in the world, and it turns out to be in Fond du Lac, Wisconsin.
Well, I'm honored to have it in Fond du Lac, and it's certainly convenient. And I had looked at other places. I guess the history of the Treffert Center begins a long time ago, in 1962, when I started the children's unit at Winnebago and met my first savants there and got interested in Savant syndrome. And through the years have collected everything that's out there about Savant syndrome. And I was putting it in my man cave in my basement, and it was getting to be quite overflowing. But more than that, I wanted to share the material rather than just have it stored. So the original Treffert Center was down in the basement of my home, and people would come from around the world to visit, to do documentaries mostly. And they expected to come to an institute of some place, and so they'd come to the house, and you turn right at the refrigerator and left at the freezer, and there was the Treffert Center. But my daughter is a librarian, Joni, and she said, "Dad, you really need to have this kind of thing organized," because people would call up and say, "Do you know any savants in Brazil?" And I'd say, "Yeah, I know there is one in Brazil, but you didn't have it organized in any way to recover that." So then you and I began to talk about doing some research, and as we talked about that, began to want to have a place that would be central and things would be organized, and the hospital was kind enough to offer us the building for the Treffert Center, and I'm very pleased about that.
It is amazing how many people now, I think, as the only Savant Center in the world, have already traveled to visit you here.
Right, I've had savants and researchers and families come to the center. It's interesting, and many documentaries that we've done in the man cave, and they call up and say they want to do a documentary, and they said, "Where are you located?" And I say, "Fond du Lac, Wisconsin," and they say, "Where the heck is that?" And then they end up coming to the Institute and really have been impressed by its modesty, I guess, in its location at home. But now, when they come, are really impressed by the depth of the materials that we have here, as well as the way they're displayed and how convenient they are. I've had visitors, documentaries from Japan, Germany, Sweden, have had savants. We just recently had Goma, who's a Japanese savant, acquired savant, and of course Kim Peek, Flo and Kay, and a number of other savants that have visited us here. And they all end up liking Fond du Lac. They find it a really friendly community, and so that, I think it's had some impact in that way also.
Very much so. I mean, your whole life work has been in recognizing the strengths of individuals, and really kind of focusing on those islands of genius and those talents. And that certainly runs throughout all of the services here at the Treffert Center.
Right, it does. And when I met my first savants, it occurred to me that, imprisoned as they were by their autism, nonverbal, that within them somewhere is what I call an island of intactness. No matter how buried, how hidden, somewhere within that child or that individual is this island of intactness. And that's what really the search is all about when you're dealing with developmentally disabled, autistic, or other individuals. And that island of intactness is a strength instead of a disability. it is an ability instead of a disability, and that's what one focuses on. You nourish it, you reward it, you celebrate it, you love it, and gradually it expands then to better language, better socialization, and better skills. But it's looking for the, and the thing that struck me originally about savants, when I went way back in 1962, is how is it possible to have someone with such a profound disability have this island of genius or ability? And what does that say about potential within us all, or human potential? And it is strength-based.
Mm-hmm. And I think of the Treffert approach and how long we've been working on that, even before the Treffert Center was in place. We really focused on individual strengths and looked for those, and trying to integrate that into our different service lines here. With the clinic and the academy, certainly the library as a resource. I think of Trevor Clark's visit, and your contribution to his work. And really that need to focus on individual talents and strengths to bring out the very best in all of us.
Right. And of course, in that sense, I depend on the team that's here to focus on strengths and the special occupational therapy, speech and language therapy, the ABA or behavior modification approaches. I've been so impressed with the staff that you had really accumulated
Well,
here.
together, yes, I think you're right.
And their ability to implement that. I think it's a multidisciplinary approach. It's not a single entity or a single specialty or a single specialist. It really is multidisciplinary. And I've learned as much from them as I hope I've conveyed to them.
Very much so. I think you're, the opportunities you bring with the international visitors and the feedback we get about the quality of services, it is unique. For example, our Early Start Denver model, and being able to do parent training and coaching and being able to reach families out in rural communities as well as families that come here for center-based care. I think it is a unique place that you've certainly blessed us with in Fond du Lac, Wisconsin.
Well, and as I said, I'm honored to do that and to see my work sort of archived now and expanded, and it gives a podium to the world, really, about Savant syndrome, and I think that reputation of the Treffert Center as being the only place, and it is the only single Savant Institute. I think as I have worked in this field, I've grown myself as an individual and expanded my vistas. And while we're concentrating on Savant syndrome, it's brought us in touch more with gifted and talented children and other kinds of exceptional brain performance. So I think while I refer to it as a Savant Institute, I really think it is an institute for the study of the exceptional mind, and we're broadening our vistas. But the savant is still such an intriguing condition, and it's so engaging when you see the ability and disability within the same individual and what that means for all of us, that it continues to generate a great deal of international interest. There are a number of documentaries we're working on now, and it provides that podium, and to have it available in one place, I think is a real contribution to the world.
I think so, and the legacy of the research. Like you've said, you have such amazing archived information available here, and Joni has organized it so well. But also being able to have those links to ongoing research for Savant, acquired Savant, and that area of kind of continued interest for you, hyperlexia.
Right, and I get inquiries daily by email from parents. They always start, I've got a son or daughter who, and they're looking to they have the feeling that their child might have some savant abilities, and they're looking for my take on that, or my impressions, or for help. And along with that, I get inquiries from other professionals every day who are looking to wonder about the incidence of synesthesia and the prodigious savant, for example, or other kinds of inquiries. So it is it started out really as the idea of a center started in about 1980 when I first met Alonzo Clemens. And we put together what was then called a clearinghouse, where it was just by correspondence and a website where people could share information. And that has expanded now into a website and now into a center. And it's, I think, it's the only place where all of these videos and theses and documentaries that are not only archived, but we're digitalizing them and making them available, readily available to people.
And many people comment that there should be a Treffert Center in every community. You know, that idea that, a place where individuals can come and learn and grow and focus on strengths, no matter what challenges they may or may not have. And I think that that certainly is your legacy here.
Right, and I think what started as a place for organized information and clearinghouse function has expanded to the academy and to treatment. I think some of that comes about because of conversations that you and I have had about the diagnosis of autism and making sure that that's more precise than it sometimes is. And that sort of morphed into hyperlexia. Children who read early or speak late are often misdiagnosed as being autistic when in fact they're in a kind of a stage of autistic-like behavior. So my idea of the center was a place to collect all this information and to expand and disseminate it, but it's expanded now into a treatment capacity, and that sort of takes me back to where I started, because when I started, my first job was to run a children's unit at Winnebago, and I was surrounded by kids, all of whom had special needs and so forth. Then I got into more adult work of various kinds, and now I'm surrounded by kids again, and it feels good. And 30 years later, what we can do for kids now compared to what we were able to do at that time is the most gratifying thing of all. And my satisfaction comes from the letters that I get from parents who have had their children involved in programs here or have read the hyperlexia manual. And I got a letter from a woman, a very distant place, about her son, and she was thanking us for what we're doing, and said she saw it as a place of happiness and hope. And so if a legacy is to be out there, and it's happiness and hope for children with disabilities, that's as good as it gets for me.
Absolutely. And I think that the fact that we have the academy and it's for all children, not only for children with challenges, but everybody benefits from that same education. Everybody needs social emotional skills. Everybody needs the ability to self-regulate. And I think through your work, it certainly is the case that all of the children here benefit from empathy. And those are the three big predictors for success in life. And I think having an academy, having the resources that we have to address any of the special needs, but also recognizing that this is about strengths in everybody and across any perspective. It's about that focus. I think the Treffert approach really incorporates your life work, that sensory perspective, the ability for us to specifically teach the skills that help people be successful no matter what level they're at.
Right, and it's been a satisfaction for me to see that put into place with the staff that we have, and with the approach that we have, which is really, I think, a much broader approach than many other programs. It's not a one-size-fits-all approach, but rather one that finds the strength and then nourishes it and embellishes in a variety of ways. And to see that in action, it's exceeded my expectations, frankly, in terms of what when we talked about an academy being attached to the Treffert Center. So I'm thrilled to have it for its original purpose, but then expanded to the degree that we have. And spreading that message not just to the parents of kids with disability, but to the general public as well, as a way to, this is a way to, a method, an approach, which is much more engulfing than some of the others.
I think you're right. Everybody has something, you know, and all of us have those strengths and those abilities, and I think that celebrates your life work and certainly makes this a very special place. I can't thank you enough for the opportunity to work with you, and certainly the continued work. And I think we see more and more people coming and wanting to learn the Treffert approach. We have different professionals, different groups from different parts of the world coming and wanting to learn how to kind of do what we're doing.
Right.
I think that's good testimony as well.
And I'm certainly thrilled to have it here and to continue to work at it conveniently, so conveniently. Has been that's exceeded my expectations as well.
Agnesian Healthcare has really, put a lot of resources to making this a possibility, and I think the spreading the good word of that mission is really becoming a global effect.
Right, and I'm very grateful and thankful to Agnesian Healthcare, the sisters, and the entire staff that have been so supportive of our venture, which we're learning and we're growing, and finally, I think, evolving into what we can call a method, which we can hopefully have little Treffert Centers all over the world.
I'd like that too. Thank you.